A little bit about my journey as we're talking about disability awareness and some ministry resources. I first of all think of relationships and what I have learned from this young man that I met 3 years ago now at our family retreats. And this young man is a wheelchair user, and he loves to sing, but his disability affects his lungs, and it's really hard for him to sing. So as we were in prayer one time, his STM buddy said, this is what Paul asked. He said, could you please bow? Could you be on your knees and worship the Lord? Because I can't get out of this chair, and our Lord is worthy. Would you do that? I looked at that young man and said, oh, Lord, I have much to learn from him. So we became friends in the relationship. So when I think about disability ministry, I think first of all about relationships. And then an aspect of developing disability ministry at a church can have two components to it, I think kind of two pillars. One side being educating the congregation and continually bringing that disability awareness and understanding to the church. And the other side is the practical things. It's the curriculum, it's the room, it's the accessibility ideas. But if we just don't keep both of those in our focus, we can see that there may become problems in areas that we could have anticipated. And so one of those things happened just in my own church. In my own church, after several of us went to Johnny and Friends retreat, last day we met Paul and many others, and saw a beautiful picture of the body of Christ that I'd never seen before. And I've been in ministry for many, many years, but there is something about being together as the body of Christ, where each person is using their gifts, and we are really showing love and concern to one another. So our church camp dad, we got all excited. We met on my porch and said, God is calling us to begin to develop a disability ministry. About a month after that, and Mom and a young girl on the autism spectrum came to our church for the first time. And we asked her, she said, we'd like to come to your church. And I asked her to come and talk to our elders and our pastor. And she told the story and said tearfully, if you ask us, if you invite us to come, don't ask us to go away. This is the fourth church we've been to. And one of the pastors said, we want you to come here, but can you help us? We're not going to always get it right. We don't know what to say, what to do sometimes. Can you help us? So that began the journey of disability awareness at my own church. And I joined the staff of Johnny and Friends. And on the website of Johnny and Friends, it's a great resource that I wanted to share with you. And it's called The Friendship Adventures. It's probably for younger children, in fact it is. But on that same website, there is a blog by a young man who is 17 years old and has autism. So the website is not just for younger children, but it's a great resource. And on that blog, you can nominate a child of the week, send in artwork, send in stories. There's a section for parents to interact with one another. So I want you to know about that tool. So here's my confession. At the church, that I said, we met and please come. Well, it went really well for the first year. And then it came the time for Haley to move up to the next class. And the confession is that I didn't think through that transition. So the first time Haley came into a new class, a little girl next to her moved away. So Haley didn't come back for about 3 weeks until her mom said, what happened? And when she told me that it happened, I thought, we need to remember the transitions and to always be educating the congregation and preparing the next class and teachers. And so that's my true confession. I work for Johnny and Friends, and we made this move at our own church. So just kind of keep that in mind. And things happen with the transitions. Remember the conversation that we had when it's relationships. Can we do this together? it'll make a big difference. And so because we have that relationship, we can come back to Haley's mom and say, can we try again? And we did, and we showed some of the friendship videos with that class, and we worked with the teachers, and Haley came back and things are going great again. And so I encourage you, if you make a mistake. Another idea is Disability Awareness Sunday, and I'm sure that many of your churches have done something like this. I'd like to challenge you to think about it in a little bit broader spectrum. You might do a Disability Awareness Whole Weekend, and then don't have that be the only Sunday of the year that you are trying to bring some disability awareness to the congregation. So a weekend might look like the youth group meets and has a 2 or 3 hour training. The pastors meet and have a breakfast with parents and families and listen to their stories. And so you break everyone down into different kinds of groups. And then when you're ready to have Disability Awareness Sunday, you've all been on this journey together. Because we don't want disability ministry to be this separate thing apart. And that can help us to be thinking through how can it be just part of our entire church. Another is the power of story. And we've been very moved today as we've been listening to stories. And so find a way to capture those stories. Use them in worship service. Use them to share as you're equipping your team. Nick Wojcik, there's a powerful story of him on the Johnny and Friends website. Also, I just found a website called I Am Second. Jesus is first, but I am second. And there's powerful stories on that website, including some of the stories of people with disabilities. So check that website out. Beyond Suffering is coming, is a course Johnny and Friends put together. You have a flyer about that, and why I bring it up in this context is that in a couple months there will be an edition, a youth edition, that can be used in Christian high schools, in youth groups, for homeschools, or just as an individual study. So look for the Beyond Suffering Youth Edition coming out. And I want to end my time with some scriptures. It's a great example of how you can bring disability awareness to your congregation. This was put together by Faith Church in Dyer, Indiana.
You have searched me, Lord, and you know me.
You know when I sit.
And when I rise.
You can see my thoughts.
You discern my going out and my lying down.
You are familiar with all my ways.
Before word is on my tongue.
You create, you must be.
You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you.
I praise you.
I praise you.
I praise you. Because I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Your works are wonderful.
My frame was not hidden from you.
I made a sacred place.
When I was woven together in the depths of the earth.
You eyes on my unseen body.
My eyes were making the thing for me.
On the days ordained for me.
Were written in your book.
Before the wonderful to be.
How vast are the sum of them.
Were I to count them?
Outnumber the grains of sand.
I am fearfully.
I fearfully.
I am fearfully.
I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
I'm here today to share with you a little bit about our GLUE grant that we have to give to churches. So as we all know, churches are a place full of diverse, unique people, all who have many disabilities as well as abilities. Some of the differences we see in people are more noticeable than others, and some needs that come from these differences are more easily met than others. You may wonder at times, however, how do we as a faith community meet the needs of certain individuals, and how do we welcome those with special needs into our church? In your youth group, for example, there may be a young man who happens to have autism spectrum disorder. This boy has a wonderful passion for cars. He can tell you their make, their model, and even what his best friend's mom drove in the 3rd grade. He also loves to sing. He sings at the top of his lungs so that the whole youth group can hear, and sometimes even the church. He struggles, however, with following directions. At times when the rest of the youth group is praying, he'll start singing. Sometimes if he's upset, he'll hit those around him. His peers aren't quite sure what to do about his outbursts or how to engage with him, and his leaders don't know the best way to include him in their time together. So how do you go about including this student, educating his peers, and responding to the specific abilities and disabilities that are present? Or perhaps the husband of a couple in your church was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Both of them are very scared about the journey ahead. And the husband is very involved in your church and wishes to remain so as his condition worsens. What are some ways to include him and allow him to use his gifts and talents? What are ways people can walk alongside the couple as they embark on this journey? Or there could be a new couple at your church whose daughter happens to have Down syndrome. As a church, you hope to create a community that enwraps and supports this person and this family. You hope to reassure them that they have a church family who will walk alongside them as they raise their daughter. Do you have a plan in place to do this? These scenarios, and we heard several others today, might be different from your church, but they're all probably very familiar to you also. They desire to be a faith community that is inclusive, yet may not have the resources or knowledge of how. So CLC Network would like to introduce you to a tool called GLUE. This tool, GLUE, stands for giving, loving, understanding, and encouraging. Giving means to give support to faith communities and enabling people with disabilities to participate in your church. Loving means to demonstrate God's love through the gifts that all God's people have to share with each other. And understanding and encouraging means that we want to understand and encourage one another as partners in ministry. We desire for you to do ministry with individuals who have disabilities rather than ministry to individuals who have disabilities. Our GLUE training DVD and manual is a 3-hour-long training session broken up into 4 segments. Typically, these materials cost $195, but we are aware that not every church has the funds to pay for this kind of training. So, for churches who are not able to buy the materials, we offer our GLUE DVD and manual for free. What does it take then to receive our GLUE grant? All you have to do is visit our website, www.clcnetwork.org/GLUE-grants. This is also located on the flyer you've received, which is in your folder. Here you will fill out a form to apply for a GLUE grant, and after your grant is approved, you will receive a DVD and training manual. The next step is to gather together 3 to 5 people from your church who are invested in this process and watch the material together. The GLUE process is explained thoroughly in the DVD material. It will help you create or further define an action plan within your church to welcome each person. You can use the GLUE process to put this plan together for the youth group member with autism spectrum disorder, a GLUE team for the individual with Alzheimer's, and a process to use with a family whose child has Down syndrome. I imagine that everyone had a very wide variety of things they like to do in order to relax. And this is just one very simple example of how God has made each of us unique. Whether it's how we relax, how we interact with one another, how we thrive in certain areas, or how we struggle in others. And the same goes for GLUE. Because we are each different, GLUE is meant to be adaptable to each person's differences. And that's the final thought that I want to leave with you here today. GLUE is not meant to be a cookie-cutter program for every church. Rather, it is a planning process that is flexible for each church, each community, and each individual. Whether you're in charge of 10 churches or 1, whether they're big or small, you can make GLUE your very own. And it is a process. It's a process that not only speaks to the individual, but it also speaks to everyone else as we work to become an example of God's body.
2 resources that we have. just again, reiterating, getting to know the individual and the family. The Individual Spiritual Formation Plan, which is like an IEP that many families who have children with disabilities are familiar with in the school setting. And we've adapted this in the church setting, and this is just kind of an outline of what we do. I am a visual person, so when I came on board, we never had a picture of the student, and I am a visual. I like to see the student and get to know them through their picture as well. So I've added a spot there to put the picture on. And then I have the families fill this out, and a lot of families are so bombarded with paperwork that's part of their life. And so I've also tried to make it accessible online for them through a Google Doc. If they're on the computer late at night and just want to fill it out and send it to me, they could do it that way as well. Or I do an individual phone call, or I maybe go to their house or have them, if they're out and about and want to stop it into the office and work with them on this. But this is just a way for us to get to know the child. There you'll see that it has the contact information, so if you needed to connect with them via email or cell phone or that type of thing. But then also wanting to know what ministries is your child going to be involved with. It kind of helps us get an idea. So if they're involved in, if they're younger and they're in some of our kids ministries, or if they're in our senior high or junior high ministries, we also have a special needs room at Calvary. And so this is for any student or young adult who has special needs that maybe can't sit through a service the whole time, or needs to just have that quiet space. We do have a room that's staffed with volunteers that they can just come into, and it's got lots of manipulatives and sensory things just to help with some of that calming. And so some parents just choose to have their student in that room the whole time, and so that is an option. It's staffed during one of our services. Then it also goes into, tell us about your child's story. What got you to this point? Where are they at right now in their life? Again, just getting to know the individual. Also, what are their strengths? What are things that they enjoy doing? And then also, what are some of the things that we could do to accommodate areas of difficulty? This is just a place for parents to say, loud noises really bother them, or they are a fidgeter, and so make sure that we have something fidgety, that they can play with or have in their hands. If there's special physical accommodations that need to be made, if they're in a wheelchair or need to use the elevator or need to be close proximity to a bathroom, this is just another snapshot of just getting to know the family and the child. We also ask for medical concerns. If there's anything above and beyond the disability that we would need to know, whether they have seizures or have food allergies or asthma, anything like that that might come into play during the ministry hour, that they're there with us. That helps us get to know that a little bit better too. And then also asking the parents, what are your goals, spiritual goals for your child? What are you hoping your child will walk away with when they're in our ministry? And a lot of families put on there that they want them engaged. They want them to be engaged in the church, whether that's in the special needs room or if it's in regular mainstream worship. They want them to be engaged and to just be able to see and feel the love of Jesus Christ. And so this is something we fill out together. I meet with the parents individually just to go over everything. We sign it every year. And then on the back of that, there's also just a part saying that they acknowledge that we went through this together. And then this is given to the ministry leaders. So that way the ministries that the students are being involved with can get to know that student as well and get to know their puzzle piece and see them in a different light. And so we give this to the ministry leaders so that way they have an idea as well. And it's kept on them. I have one in my office that I keep as well, but we always make sure that it's with the ministry leaders. The first page on here is called an emergency health care plan. This is my little peanut on here. So as a parent, I've just been really touched by today because we all have special needs in some way, whether it is a severe disability or something smaller. We all have needs. And my children have severe food allergies and asthma, and I have one that has seizures. And going into the school system, I realized that as a parent, I was giving them to somebody that I can no longer have that control, and I worry. We worry about our kids, and we want them to be in the best environment, safest environment for them. And this was something that we created for them for school. I was with another parent, and we said, we just want people to feel equipped. We just felt like the equipped part was not there. And so we created this emergency healthcare plan, action plan, which basically just says, this is my child, this is their medical concerns. You'll see on there it's mostly food allergies and the asthma, but then as a parent, what do I want to happen? In the case that something would happen, what is something that I can do as a ministry leader that they can do, and they know that it lays it right out here for them. And this is something that we have adopted now at Calvary as well for all of our youth and student ministries. And it's for any student who has a medical concern. And it's another equipping tool, another way that people feel safe. I will be very honest, when I grew up at Calvary, went there my whole life and loved Calvary. And when my children had the food allergies, discovered that it was a larger church, and I felt like every Sunday I kept telling different people, this is my child, I'm entrusting you, type of a thing, and please make sure that this is taken care of. And it was every week, and as a parent, I just felt like I can't do this anymore. I didn't feel safe leaving them, and so we ended up leaving and going to a smaller church, where I felt that they would know us as an individual, as a family, and I didn't have to keep telling everybody their story. And so we felt called to come back to Calvary, and I was offered the position as a special needs coordinator. And that's one thing that I brought in to say, you know what, I don't want families to turn away. Regardless of your size, we are all here to minister to individuals. And so if this is a tool that your church can use, if it's large or small, it's just a piece for parents to know that you are invested in my child, that you care about their needs outside of their spiritual needs, their physical needs, their emotional needs. And so this was something that as a parent, I said, you know what, they're invested. It's another piece of paperwork, but they want to know about my child, and they want to know how to make it the perfect fit for them. I have a template for this. I don't like reinventing the wheel. It's not one of my things either, so I always look for things. I wanted to show you what it looks like, but I do have like a PDF or a template of this that I would be happy to share with you. My contact information is all in that folder that you have, and I would be glad to send it to you. So if this is something you wanted to modify, feel free to do that. But I wanted to share this as another tool, this spiritual formation plan, as well as this emergency action plan, as ways that we can equip our volunteers and equip our families and our students to help create that positive environment for them.
Often there is a discrepancy between what parents feel comfortable about telling the school system and what they feel comfortable telling a church body. Could you, one of you or all of you, should address how to break down the barrier of why it's important to share with your church family the same information that you give to the school, including why you don't give medication always on the weekends, give kids a break. It just, can you speak to that?
I think it's building those relationships. I think after a while, if you have built that relationship with a family, they're going to feel that they can share this information. I tell parents when I ask for this that this is a way for us to get to know their student, and but also to provide that positive environment. And some parents choose not to do it. You have that in the school system too. Some parents just don't want to do it. They don't send EpiPens. They just don't want to, and that's their choice. But to continually put it out there to say, this is something we would love to do to have the safest and nurturing environment for your child. And if they choose to do it, they do. And if not, then we just respect that and pray that nothing happens while they're on our campus. But really, that's all that we could do at that point. I mean, I would love to be able to knock down your door and say, we really need this information, but some parents, you know, they choose not to medicate over the weekend, and we can't force them to do that. But I think by building that relationship to be able to have those honest conversations like we had talked about before, saying, you know, when they're in our ministry, these are things that we're seeing, and could it help to maybe have them have their medication on a Sunday? But if they choose not to, then we just continue to walk beside them and just pray for the best.
Sometimes when you're meeting a parent for the very first time, if the ministry leader is with you and you have someone on your team that's doing that kind of gathering of information, and you meet one another, it may not lead to initially all the information, but try to have a meeting again in three months, 6 months, and see if you've been building that relationship, perhaps more of that willingness to share more when they have that sense of trust.
I'm going to kind of steal words out of Barb's mouth, but she always talks about how, again, the green and pink, we all have things that we're good at and things that we're bad at, and we don't have to put labels on those things if parents don't want us to say them, but we can all start with saying the things we're good at and the things that we're not so good at. And as the leader, the teacher, or the youth group leader, you are the model to those kids, to your youth group. And so if you start and you make yourself a little vulnerable, then your students will feel so much more able to do that also.
We as churches have to be very, very sure to remind that all of the people who work with students about the level of confidentiality that is required. Because I think that some of the fears parents have is about what might be said about their parents from some leader having read it in a piece of paper that they were given. And I think that comes into the opening up of the entire congregation, understanding needs, is that part of that is just respecting each other and that high need for confidentiality. And I think that's something that we as leaders need to stress over and over again to the people that work under us, that this is not information that they can take lightly. And I think that might be part of some of the fear that parents have about putting those words on paper.
Yeah, if you have that as part of your manual, part of your training of all volunteers, and have that be a value that you reinforce often.